it's an absolute great honor to be here and to share my experiences with scaffolding. I work at Thomas More University of Applied Science in Flanders, which is a region in Belgium. And yes, but I think there should be a presentation,
yes,
which is
I will open it.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to try to follow my presentation on another screen with my English texts, while the material that you're going to see is in Russian. Just a minute.
Philip, please go ahead, and I will.
Oh yes. In terms of the scaffolding, it's a little bit difficult not having the image, but okay. Yeah. Yes, because what I do, there it is. Okay, just a minute. Yeah. Okay. Voilà. If you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Voilà. Okay. So since 10 years, I work specifically on the development of entrepreneurial competences in our university, based on Entrepreneurship Competence Framework, where, can you go to the first slide again, please, Christine? Yes. I do set up, I design, I'm a learning designer, and I work with various courses where I design learning tracks where entrepreneurial competences, mainly in the meantime, also sustainability competences and interdisciplinary competences are central. And scaffolding is used, can I say, in two ways. Olena already mentioned the metaphor of a real scaffold that entrepreneurs use to build houses. I use it as an architect, where I have this large toolbox of learning activities, exercises, etc., that I give to the students in order to become more entrepreneurial. But I also use the scaffolding in its original entrepreneurial learning theory meaning. Which means that scaffolding is also a process where learners originally are very, very closely guided by a teacher, me, and then go through a certain learning experience that has to do with becoming entrepreneurial. And then gradually I leave the guidance behind, so that the students become more confident, more resilient in their own learning, and build more empowerment, let's say, just like a salmon does when swimming against the stream, let's say, to become stronger and then jump to become more empowered. I use that metaphor also to explain that. Next slide, please. And 10 years ago, I designed this drawing where you can see that I really work like an architect, where over a period of 6 semesters for the 3-year bachelor courses that we offer in our university college, is a 3-year professional bachelor course. I designed 2 learning lines. The yellow ones is the one that has to do with attitudes and behavior in order to become more entrepreneurial. And the red ones are the typical tools that are used for somebody to do entrepreneurial things, like a business model canvas, like innovation canvases, etc. And you see in the design more or less that I also reuse this metaphor of the scaffolding like an entrepreneur or an architect, but also in the salmon run idea, where students gain confidence and empowerment and resilience to become, at the end of the full process, fully self-directed in terms of entrepreneurial learning. Next slide, please. And for that, here, and Olena and probably also people working with Entrecomp will recognize this. Entrecomp is also a design which is like, I think, the one of the greatest assets of Entrecomp, that it is divided over 8 different proficiency levels, starting from, let's say, on the left side, the absolute beginners level or a foundational level, where in the bottom you see it. The learning in the first year with our students, 18-year-olds, starts on an individual level, is within one discipline, and where they have the possibility to create their own innovation challenge. Every learning process is also guided with a specific toolbook, which has the same idea, let's say, of scaffolding the students, towards more independence at the end of the track. Next slide, please. And this is what happens then in the second year. So meaning that the same competences on becoming entrepreneurial are repeated 3 years in a row. But the level of complexity increases, where, for example, in the second year, it's about team learning, still within one discipline. It's always connected to an SDG, Sustainable Development Goals related challenge. And the challenge is also given by an external party. So here the students again go through the whole 15 competences of Entrecomp, but the level of complexity increased. And at the same time, I hope that the level of independence, of self-confidence, of resilience of the students, being a little bit more entrepreneurial, also increased. Next slide. And this happens in the third year, where we have the same process. But at this moment, you could say that in the third year, I leave the students fully on their own. I reckon that they're independent and gained enough resilience to become more or less entrepreneurial within their learning. Where in the third year, it's the complexity increased in terms of projects or challenges became interdisciplinary, which is very difficult for students. It's about team learning. It's still SDG related. And also here, a challenge in order to solve something or to show how entrepreneurial they became is also given by an external party. Next slide. And here you see a more or less representation of a typical learning process over one semester, 13 weeks, for our students, where I use this image of a road, but you could also recognize the river of the salmon, let's say, where I begin with all the students on the left side, arguing that nobody of them ever had some kind of an entrepreneurial experience. And then week after week, we explore together the 15 competences of Entrecomp. And you could say that every competence that you see there is a kind of a barrier or a moment where the students need to learn something and then jump a level higher in order to, at the end, having experienced the 15 competences of Entrecomp. Next slide. Just a minute, I have to, yes, follow this here. For example, I hope it's readable, but this here is like one specific segment out of Entrecomp dealing about ideas and opportunities. It's a very specific competence of Entrecomp, where the students need to prove and learn that they're able to see some kind of an opportunity around them in order to create value for somebody else, which is like the definition of spotting opportunities, where, remember, for these absolute beginners, I give them a lot of guidance. I really take them by the hand. I prepare a lot of templates and tools for them in order for them to learn step by step what it means to become proficient in spotting opportunities. And if you go to the next slide, please. I here created a very extensive template, which is the Opportunity Discovery Canvas, where the students in 3 templates, there's 2 other ones, divided over 3 question blocks, which are at them subdivided into more questions. Step by step, they really have to think, stand still, and argue, find reasons and motivations in order to use a certain discovered opportunity, let's say, in order to develop it further in a possible solution for somebody that creates value. So I just wanted to show with this the importance for the students to really be taken by the hand, really give them a lot of guidance, in order that in the next phase, which is in the second and the third year, they have to go through this learning experience again, but without so much guidance from my part. I will show it with the other templates. Next slide. I'm going over this one, next one as well. But it's just to show you, like, just on the level of being able to spot an opportunity, they have this very detailed template where they have to go through it step by step in order to acquire this specific competence. If you go to the next slide, and I see that I already talked about this. But you have to keep in mind that from this slide on, we are dealing with students from the second year. The scaffolding is still going on. I still provide them with tools like the architect does. But in order to join, the learning experience from the first years together with the new experiences for the second year, which became more complex and difficult because it's about team learning. It's about a different kind of challenge that they have to work on, etc. Next slide. And then again here, you see the same detailed description of the competence spotting opportunities, but where here, instead of learning it with a lot of guidance from my part, there is more independence. It's literally saying that the intermediate level has to do about building independence, where the students again have to go through. Next slide, please. The same type of road or the river, again, think about the salmons, but where you recognize the same entrepreneurship or competences that came back, but joined with a lot more other tools, in this case, or methods, which are the ones that the students need to learn to use in order to make their entrepreneurial challenge or entrepreneurial assignment that they got from me more meaningful. So it's in a way, because I see here on the Russian slide that there's some words missing, but remember the first slide that I showed the specific Entrecom competences that are joined here with specific business innovation tools like a lean canvas, stakeholder mapping, a service blueprint, a value proposition canvas, etc. Next slide. Sorry, no. It's because I see now what was happening, because there was some animation in it and I forgot the animation. But you see here what I just told, that in gray it's the Entrecom competences. It's specifically more the attitudes and the behavior that has to do with becoming entrepreneurial, and in red it's the tooling. Next slide. We go to the third year. Remember again the idea in the right bottom I had at the beginning, designing this salmon trap or salmon run model, which is kind of a equivalent of the scaffolding image that Olena used in the third year. The entrepreneurial learning becomes very complex in terms of learning it. Because it's interdisciplinary, it's about team learning. Students need to learn to work together. It's not so simple from our experience. It's an assignment given by an external party. They really have to develop a real prototype. And then again, if you go to the next slide, here I again come back to the detailed description of the competence, ideas, and opportunities, where, as a matter of saying, there's almost no more guidance from my part. At this moment, I think that my little salmons, which are the students, became strong and confident enough in order to develop a full self-paced, self-directed entrepreneurial learning by themselves. If you go to the next slide. then you see here that it's a kind of a full integration of all the 15 competences from Antekromp on an expert level on the one hand, and on the same time, within the same learning trajectory, all the tools that they need to learn are related to their learning goals from the courses that they are following or that they are connected to. So with that, I hope, after having this done like 3 years in a row, I hope that I have, well, I can, in a matter of saying, break down the scaffold and hope that the students became strong and confident enough to build their own entrepreneurial learning or projects thanks to this learning journey. And then there's the last slide, I think. Yes, because I wanted to share with you some learnings from my part that I saw throughout the years. So it's about scaffolding that helps students to break down and master complex ideas step by step. Remember the river with the 15 steps that I use throughout the semester. It's about problem solving. By guiding and modeling, scaffolding strengthens students' abilities to solve challenging problems independently. Remember the assignments that I give them are generally quite complex, are dealing with a lot of thematic areas. It's not about one specific discipline. It's about multiple disciplines connected to a concept that perhaps you know. It's called wicked problems. So scaffolding helps them to dissect, as a matter of saying, these wicked problems into parts that are more easier for them to work on. Scaffolding keeps students engaged and motivated by reducing frustration and making learning more manageable. With scaffolded support from my side, from the teacher side, students build confidence and believe in their ability to succeed on their own. And then finally, scaffolding promotes long-term retention and helps students apply knowledge in new situations. Voilà. And with that, I hope, Christine, that I managed to talk within 10 or 12 minutes. And if it's not, I'm sorry. And if it is, then I was happy to share it with you and also to reply to some questions if there are.